So when I sat down and really looked at what I wanted to do for this business and where I wanted JNS to go,
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I wanted to make it a multi-million-dollar firm.
Mm-hmm.
Not there yet, working on it.
I mean, 6 figures. That's nothing to laugh at. No.
No, I'm getting there. So,
Hi, I'm Kyle Weckerly, certified professional ghostwriter. I'm glad you're listening as I welcome industry experts to share stories. You'll hear of lessons learned the hard way, overcoming professional hurdles, turning experience into actionable knowledge, and how to connect with your target audience. This is the Career Challenges Podcast. Welcome to the Career Challenges Podcast, and my guest for this episode is Nanci Watkins. Nanci Watkins is a single mom who went to full-time mom starting a business, and within 1 year, she reached 6 figures. So first off, I'm very impressed with that alone. And secondly, what is the business specifically that you're in? Because it's also something that I'm not well equipped to do.
Well, I'm an accountant, and we have started our business where we offer bookkeeping as well as accounting, and we are just now starting to offer CFO services as well to small and medium-sized businesses nationwide and fixing to be international.
You're fixing to be international. All right. So well, first off, how do you go from, localized, which you're in Florida. So I'm
Correct.
assuming to go from local to interstate involves some sort of, process to do there. And then, of course, going from interstate to international. Can you explain to me a little bit how that would work?
Well, it honestly was a very quick process for me. It happened a lot faster than I ever anticipated. Honestly, it was more of the like right place, right time kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But as I started branching out here locally and meeting certain people, I knew that there was the market for people who needed help with bookkeeping and accounting in my general area. But I knew that I wanted to build something bigger. And so I was talking with my boyfriend, Josh, and we were like playing things back and forth with each other of how can we grow this business to scale the way that we want it to. Mm-hmm. So within the first 6 months of opening JNS, we had almost 10 clients. We were covering locally. We had one client out of state, which was in Michigan. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, okay, now it's time to scale up. So I started doing a lot of research, looking at different, larger accounting firms. What were they doing? And kind of seeing, well, I can do that too. Starting to advertise more on Facebook organically and really step up and speak to my clients and who I was wanting to work with. And crazy enough, we were actually in the process of opening up a food trailer, like a food truck kind of business as well.
What kind of food truck? Yeah. I'm curious.
It is actually a mobile sports bar.
Ooh, nice.
It's the first one in the area. So that's something that Josh is actually going to be doing and running full time. And I am so excited for him to be able to be home with us on that. And so I had joined a bunch of groups on Facebook, just started talking with people, building the relationship, and just mentioned that I was an accountant and got some questions coming my way. Next thing I know, I had clients out in Texas and some out, in a few different states. And then it was kind of like the snowball effect when I started focusing on building those relationships and getting to talk with people rather than viewing them as money. Mm-hmm. Then I saw our business change and it just started growing much more rapidly than I ever anticipated. Mm-hmm. And so now I have some clients that I work exclusively with for her clients that she does different growth strategies and different advisory services that I now am her backside, which is amazing.
Awesome.
And then some of our current clients are now branching out of the country, and they know the way that we work, and they are loving what we're doing with them. And they have asked us to take on their businesses that they're purchasing outside the country, which is awesome.
Wow. So that sounds like, well, amazing, first of all, obviously. And then secondly, it obviously is going to be a lot of work too, right?
It is, but it you always say, or I always say, nothing that's worth it comes easy.
True.
If you put in your work and you put in the effort, then you're going to get the result that you want.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're lazy, or if you don't actually take the time to hone your skills or learn how to better yourself for your business, or different things that you can offer for your business, then you're going to get stuck. And I don't ever want to get stuck.
Yeah. I've been stuck before, and it's a paralyzing feeling.
It is.
Yeah, a lot of meditation and reading, and working on what I wanted to do, so that I didn't let that stuckness become something permanent. So
Mm-hmm.
so props to you. But also going back, you had mentioned scaling your business, and sometimes I feel people throw that word around, like, you've got a business, you need to scale. We're going to scale this, and you've got a system here that's scalable, and so scale. So what does scale mean to you, and then how did you approach expanding your business?
Well, I was in the same boat with you at the beginning. I had no idea what the word scalable meant.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked people, and I got different answers from people I had asked. What scalable mean? So for me, what scalable means in our business is growing it successfully in a planned manner.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to grow this in a way that I know we will be able to maintain our profitability, but at the same time, I want to make sure that we're growing it in a way that we're taking over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's very planned for me. I make sure that I have my budgets in place. I have my goals in place. What is my goal for the next 30 days? What is it for the next 6 months? What is it for the next year, 5 years? What is my large vision for this business? And what am I doing today that's going to get me there? Am I doing something today that's going to help me in 6 months? If not, then I need to be doing that now.
Yeah, definitely.
And so, yes, there have been hurdles. There have been challenges that I have come up and faced all throughout this past year and a half. And it's been a lot of fun and very challenging. I've learned a lot of self-reflection in this time.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. That's important too. Being able to understand, how this is affecting me, who I am. For me, I felt I got really deep and introspective with that question, and you're sitting there, who am I? Who am I?
Why am I figuring
why?
out my why?
Yeah, true. So I don't know if you went that deep with it. But kind of circling back to what you had mentioned earlier, some of the challenges that you went through, can you explain what it was like before you really started, and then as the business really started to take off, what were some of those challenges that you faced, and of course, how did you handle
them? So one of the first challenges is actually getting clients. How opening the doors on September 17th, saying that, yes, we're going to start this business. well, I didn't have any clients on September 17th.
No.
So I'm like, okay, how am I going to do this? What am I going to do to get those clients in? So I started looking on Facebook. I started going to different events here locally. And then I got my first client and I was like, oh my gosh. Then I was like, okay, what do I do next? So, because I know what to do as a bookkeeper, I know what to do as an accountant, but I had never done it on my own. I had always worked for other companies where they have already got all of the processes in place. They already, they tell you what you need to do on a day-to-day basis. But actually having to create everything on the back end for myself, for my business, was a totally different arena that I had never touched before. So there was a lot of figuring things out as I went. But to me, that has allowed for my personal growth to know what I'm really good at, what I needed to work on, and how I can help our clients better. Mm-hmm. And then I know at the same time exactly the way that a brand new business owner struggles. Well, now I know firsthand how to help them overcome those struggles, mm-hmm. and then plan financially to make sure that they don't get mixed up with their taxes or, spending this when they shouldn't be doing that. And so it's been a lot of moments. Yeah. But then also when I got to a point where we started getting busier and I started seeing that I was getting very, very overwhelmed, I would talk to Josh about it and like, I'm at the point now where I'm maxed out. I'm going all day, every day. And so then decided to bring on my first employee part-time. And that was extremely nerve-wracking. Now I'm not only responsible for clients, but I'm also responsible for an employee too. Mm-hmm. But I honestly was truly blessed by her finding me. Because I had put a post out on Facebook saying, hey, I'm looking for someone part-time. And another girl had started responding to me, but then Stephanie took over the conversation and she's like, hey, I need to talk to you. And Stephanie gave me the opportunity to kind of take a step back a little bit from having to do the day-to-day bookkeeping and focus on being able to grow my company, get out there to have more coffee dates or coffee meetings and go out and go to networking events and meet people, mm-hmm. which has been honestly the biggest way I was able to grow this business so fast, was meeting people face to face.
Definitely. Yeah.
So
I've always heard, face to face is best. You really make those genuine connections with people face to face. But that's not to say that people getting on a Zoom call like we are now can't have a genuine connection. But
right, and that's what with some of my clients that are now nationwide that I've never met in person. We have Zoom calls. There's other ways you can Skype. If they have iPhones, I'm like, FaceTime me.
There you go.
There's so many different avenues out there now. Facebook Live, let's have a Facebook chat.
Yeah. And then there's so LinkedIn Live too now. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All sorts of stuff.
Yeah. Building those relationships with clients has been the most fun to me because they have honestly become family. Mm-hmm. And they'll call me just to say hi. And that is why I do what I do and I run my business the way I run it, because I don't want my clients to feel like they're coming to a stuffy boardroom. I'm nothing against corporate America, but that's not me.
Sure. I understand completely. So when you're building your business, you said you had goals, for 30 mm-hmm. days, 60 days, 6 months out. Was there kind of an overarching goal for everything? And if so, how did you use that to kind of build your small goals, build your business? And has that changed between when you started and now?
Of course. So when I sat down and really looked at what I wanted to do for this business and where I wanted JNS to go,
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I wanted to make it a multi-million-dollar firm.
Mm-hmm.
Not there yet, working on it.
I mean, 6 figures. That's nothing to laugh at. No.
No, I'm getting there. So, and then to make this a multi-million-dollar firm, how do I do that? How many clients do I need? What are the packages that I can offer? How much are those services going to cost? How am I going to be able to get in front of those clients that are going to pay those fees to be able to get me to my goal, but at the same time know that I'm helping them grow their business. So I set and I reverse engineered my goal. So I knew I wanted to be $1 million firm, and for instance. Well, then I'm giving myself 3 years to do that. So I want to be $1 million firm in 3 years. So then I reversed it and I'm like, okay, here's year 2, how much I need. Well, to get there, I'm going to need to do this. So then I went back for year 1 and I really just sat down and put pen to paper, honestly, and did some calculations and saw, okay, in the next 30 days, I need to talk to so many people. We'll say for numbers sake, 200 people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, out of those 200 people, the average is less than 10% are going to turn into clients.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. Well, that's not going to get me as close to what I want to do. So I need to take that 200, and by the next 6 months, I need to turn that into 2,000.
Mm-hmm.
And so by increasing the people that I'm reaching and the number of people I'm talking to, there is the opportunity for me to talk about what I can do for our clients and talk about ways to work with our clients to grow their business and show them the transformation that they're able to achieve in a shorter amount of time by working with us, and really say, okay, that's where I want to be. So now let's get there. And so then maybe in the next 2 months, I'm going to focus on marketing. And then maybe I'll focus on writing a course or different ways to grow this business and not just keep it limited to one arena. Does that make sense?
Would you like to be a guest on the Career Challenges podcast? Go to careerchallengespodcast.com to find out how. While you're there, check out other episodes and download them through Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, Castbox, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more. The Career Challenges podcast is hosted by me, Kyle Weckerly. I'm a certified professional ghostwriter who works with business thought leaders and industry experts to write polished manuscripts, assess their publishing options, and create book marketing plans. I've worked with consultants, high-ticket salespeople, coaches, speakers, C-level executives, and business owners. My authors have worked for USAA, Vistage, Booz Allen Hamilton, Austin Technology Council, and the John Maxwell team. My authors want to write a book to serve as a platform for their marketing endeavors. They know that becoming an author will help them secure speaking gigs, market their expertise, promote a product or service, and more. Are you ready to turn your experience, knowledge, and stories into actionable advice and connect with your ideal client? Then visit WeckerlyWriter.com to schedule a consultation today and begin your publishing journey. That's WeckerlyWriter.com. WeckerlyWriter.com. And now, back to the Career Challenges podcast. So Nanci, it sounds like you're very structured in your approach towards scaling your business and even starting your business. But some people would argue you've got to have, intuition in there somewhere. So where did intuition come into the whole thing for you, and how did you kind of, I guess, lean on that, as opposed to just plan all the time?
Um, I think intuition is a very big part of being a business owner and being an entrepreneur. If you don't have your intuition, then you wouldn't have started your business, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Some people completely disagree with that, and that's okay. But
true, to each their own. Yes.
yes. You always hear the black and white and the gray areas. So there's always going to be the structured planning part of a business that you should do. Not everybody does this. I have some clients that they've decided to just wing it on a day-to-day basis. And they are doing very well. Then I have some clients that are very structured, and they're like, oh my gosh, and they're doing great. So for me personally, I like the structure. I like to plan. I am a very big planner. Mm-hmm. Now, there have been times where it did not go as planned. So that's where I've had to take a step back and lean on my support systems and say, okay, this just happened. For instance, I had one of our clients decided that they wanted to go with a different firm after just coming on board. And that was very early on in our business. And I was like, okay, well, I wasn't expecting that so quick. So there was not, my plan didn't happen. And as an entrepreneur, I had to make sure that I kept going. I had to learn from that experience. And so I asked them, hey, I heard you were wanting to go to a different firm, and may I ask why? So that way I can better our skills and, make sure that we make this a better opportunity for our next client. And they were very nice about it and very sweet and gave us great feedback from it. But that's where I had planned out to have that client for the next year. Well, when they decided to change firms, then that revenue was gone. So, being brand new and very small, I had a wrench thrown at me, but I kept going. I didn't let that stop me. And I think that is the biggest thing that I like to tell people is never stop going. Because if you stop going, then you're letting the issue that occurred, the situation that happened, defeat you. And you can plan all day, but nothing ever is going to continually happen that way.
Sure.
But I knew in my gut that I had to keep going because I know that I'm good at what I do. I know that I'm able to build a business, a successful business. And I knew that I was better than that situation. And I proved it.
Sure.
And over, well, maybe the next 4 or 5 months, I over tripled the revenue.
What?
From that moment.
Awesome.
Because I learned from the situation. I took what happened. Yes, it didn't go as planned, but I knew, okay, I lost that revenue. Now it's time to replace it with more. So then I bettered my plan. I redid my plan. And so that's where you have to have the ability in keeping going to wiggle a little bit and to maneuver.
Definitely.
Because I don't want to limit where we can go. So that it was a lot of fun. I've always been told growing up, trust your gut.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes my gut doesn't feel right to me, but you know what? That's why I have my better half now. And he's the one that, if I don't feel 100% of my gut, he's right there to support me. And he's like, do it anyway. I'm like, are you sure? He's like, yes, do it. You got this. You got this. So I would not have been able to build this business without him and my family. And I honestly, I wouldn't be talking to you right now without that.
Sure. Well, I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for that. So when we connected before the recording, you had mentioned get paid up front. So I'm just curious, where did that come from, and is there a story behind that?
Yeah, there's probably a couple ones of those. Many different accountants or bookkeeping companies operate in different ways. Mm-hmm. And I had always been told, get a contract and get them to sign up and then send invoices. Well, I would sign up some clients and send invoices, and I would start doing the work, start, making sure their accounts were reconciled and categorizing their transactions for them, and start doing what we had discussed in our plan to get them to their goals. But then when it came time to pay their invoices, they wouldn't want to pay them on time or at all.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a second here. I just did all this work for you. And this, I got to eat too. And so I had to restructure, again, goes back to my planning. I had to go back and restructure how I went and engaged with my clients, and had to think, do I do deposits up front? Do I do setup fees? What am I going to do to make sure that the work that's being done is paid for? Mm-hmm. And I had one client that I did a bunch of work for and I kept sending invoices, and she was like, oh, I'll pay you in a few weeks. I was like, okay, great. 2 months went by and the invoice was still sitting there unpaid. And I was like, hey, we're almost done with this now. Can you pay your invoice? Oh, well, no, I don't think so. I was like, what? Wait a second. Wow. We're almost done with this and got you current, but yet you don't want to pay your invoice now.
Yeah. I wish I could do that, with like my utility bill or the car payment. I just don't feel like paying that right now. Let's just not pay that this month, and don't penalize me or anything for it later.
Yeah. I'm always like, hey, when I go to Walmart, they don't give me the opportunity to pay later. Mm-hmm. They have layaway around the holidays, but you still have to pay it before you get something.
Yeah, I always liked when you did the debit swipe, it asked, is this amount correct? And I always want to say, no, it should be zero, because I shouldn't have to pay for this.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like, make sure, okay, so your invoice is there. And so I had to go up to her business because she was a local client. But even though I started thinking, I'm like, oh my goodness, when we get to the point where we are nationwide, so this was a few months after we had opened, before we do go nationwide, I'm not going to be able to fly out to different states to make sure they're paying their invoices.
Sure.
So I'm like, okay, that was part of what we'll put in quotation marks, the scaling portion of this business, making sure that we have the processes in place and everything to be able to go into other states and go nationwide. And that's where we turn it around and we redid our agreements up front. So everybody had to pay the setup fee, and then their first month before we started working up at the beginning of our contract. Mm-hmm. And then I made sure that it was in our agreement that there was, the invoices were due every month on the 1st. And then I found out that, it worked out really well for our clients that we did bank drafts and put them on automatic payment for their first year with us, and they love it. They don't have to worry about it now. And I was like, oh, this is so much nicer because I know that things are getting paid on time.
Yeah. It's always nice when you know there's money coming in, for sure.
Yes, definitely.
Definitely. Awesome. Definitely. So you had mentioned, kind of a process for starting your business. Where did you learn that? Was it a specific course you took, or was it like a book that you had read?
The process of starting my business.
Yes.
I've always been around. So growing up, my dad had always bought businesses that were pretty much either selling, or I never honestly saw my dad start a business. He always bought businesses. And so I grew up looking at what to do when the business was already going. So not knowing how to start it, I took it day by day. I read a lot. I did a lot of research. Now there are courses, and I'm in the process currently of creating some courses myself to help people start their own bookkeeping services and their own accounting firms. Whereas a year ago, there weren't as many out there and as many that are as prominent to be able to get you started with basically almost a turnkey business right off the bat. And so I've created this. Now, am I perfect? Like I said earlier, no. I learn something new every day, but that's part of my growth, and I love it. But for me, I just kept learning. I did something great one day and I wrote it down. And then if I did something not so great one day, I wrote that down in a different column. So then once I started seeing what was going right, then that's where I started formulating my business around what was going right. And then when we saw things that weren't going so hot, we kind of knew, okay, we need to figure out something to combat that and turn it into a positive. So no, I didn't have a manual in front of me. I didn't have a pre-made business sitting in front of me to open on day one and boom, here you go. So I did this all from scratch with myself.
Awesome. That's cool. That's really impressive. So you're mentioning like expanding, and you've already hired on at least one employee, right? Did I hear that right? Awesome. Correct. So then, is there kind of a mark or a milestone, I guess, you're looking at to where okay, I'm going to need to hire more people, and maybe not another accountant, but maybe somebody else to handle kind of more the office day to day, or I don't know, some sort of executive. I'm not sure exactly how businesses expand and in what way, but I mean, is that in mind for you?
Yes. So what the kind of goal for me is, I'm at the point now where I'm almost again maxed out with my time. And so the next goal potentially would be to hire in a virtual assistant, probably, to help with the day-to-day, to help with scheduling, with social media. Some people have talked to me about hiring a social media manager. I'm like, no, I don't want someone just for that, because I need someone to be a little more well-rounded. Yeah. And And then after that, probably we'll look into hiring another accountant to help offset me per se, and take this and grow. I'm hoping to more than double this year in our revenue. So I will definitely need another accountant by my side to help have those higher level eyes on set, as well as our bookkeepers.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
So I think in the next probably 2 to 3 months is where I'll be hitting to bring on some more help.
What got you into accounting specifically? Was there kind of a moment where you thought, oh, this is something I really enjoy, or I really have a lot of talent in, so I want to develop that? Was there that moment for you that you can point to?
You know what? I love this story. No, that was not how it was for me.
Really?
Yeah. I actually, one of my favorite jobs was a front desk agent at a hotel I worked at many, many years ago. That to me was just so much fun because of the interaction, the people interaction. But there were still the numbers attached to it. So I was still responsible for that. So that's kind of where the numbers came in a little bit. But then my parents were like, well, you need to go to school to get a degree. And so I actually have a bachelor's in healthcare administration and management, because they were like, well, the healthcare, you'll always have a job. There's always going to be jobs in the healthcare industry. That's never going away. So that's what I did. Mm-hmm. Well, after I got that degree and I had my son, I wanted to start back working, in the workforce again, because I was a stay-at-home mom for a few months. And I had gotten a job as a receptionist, honestly. And I was like, let's just kind of ease into working again. Well, the controller that was there at that company, it was a remanufacturing facility for transmissions. Mm-hmm. He was like, you might know a little more than the average bear over there. And so I actually ended up creating their accounts receivables position for the company, because it was a little over a year old. So they were pretty new as a startup. And I really liked doing the accounts receivables, because I got to talk to all the clients. It was different every day. And it was a lot of fun, even though I had to take people's money.
Well, I wouldn't argue with the taking of the money,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hey, how are you? Now I need your credit card number, please.
Yep.
But then after I had been there for about 6 months, the girl who was doing their accounts payable decided to leave. So rather than replacing her with somebody, they were like, hey, Nanci can take this on. Mm-hmm. So I learned accounts payable, and my controller, he was awesome. He was such a great mentor, and he's really what got me into the love of accounting and the love of numbers. And he coached me and he guided me as I was learning accounts receivable and accounts payable and all of the terminology and all the terms and what you can do with this. And he was a master in Excel. And so he made sure I knew everything I could possibly know about how to use Excel and formulas. And I didn't even know, honestly, at the time, what a pivot table was.
Yeah, I've heard of them, but I've never gotten one to work for myself.
Yeah, the making sure that this column matches that column and this row and that row, and to before you can create your pivot table was something fun to learn. Yeah. But now I can make them all day, every day.
There you go.
But after he left, about another 6 months later, they had asked me to take over the entire accounting department. And I was like, yeah, okay, I can do that. Sure.
There you go.
And so I learned on the fly. I had to go with the flow and figure it out. And me being the planner I am, was getting gray hairs every day. But I did it. And then I ended up having to teach the CFO how to work the computer systems. And that was so much fun to me.
Yep.
I was like, I got to be a teacher for a day.
There you go.
And that job is what got me to love accounting. And then when I had been there for a few years, I kept being told, you need to go back to school. You need to have your degree, because if you're going to get a high paying job, they're going to want the paper to go along with it. So I did. I went back to school and I graduated with my bachelor's in accounting and got another job with, down here in Florida with a firm, or not a firm, but a company where I was their accountant, and was so excited. And then when that job ended, I was like, okay, do I want another office job, or do I want to do something on our own? And that's where JNS was born from. And it was the best decision we've ever made.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Well, before we get to the wrap up here, I do have one more question for you. So you're helping businesses kind of get things up and going as far as their books are concerned. And so you've probably seen people's financials, the good and the bad. You mentioned people who just are winging it, and yet they're making it work. So for maybe an entrepreneur who's not at the point where they can afford services like what you're offering, but they're struggling financially, do you have any sort of advice that might kind of help them along?
The biggest thing that I would say is start using an accounting software. That is the number one thing that I will say. Go online, get QuickBooks if you like QuickBooks. That's what we use pretty much exclusively. And I can send you a link. That way you can give it to your listeners for
yes,
a
please do, and I'll put it in.
Yeah,
I'll put it in the show notes as well, so they know to go there.
Yeah, because it'll give them 50% off to where it's $20, $20 a month for the first 6 months, and that way you make sure that all of your expenses and everything's going in the books, and then reconcile to make sure everything's being recorded. That would be my number one thing, is making sure that everything is being recorded now rather than later. Because if you want to see where you're going, you need to know where you're standing today.
Definitely.
So that would be my number one thing, is start using an accounting system now. And number two is do not put anything personal through your business accounts. Keep personal and business separate.
Definitely. Yeah, I worked for a company, and the CEO was a sneakerhead, quote unquote sneakerhead. And I heard scuttlebutt, rumors around the office. Oh, he's using a company card to buy his sneakers again. It's like,
Goodness,
that's illegal, right?
Yeah, and that's where, depending on the entity, it's like sole proprietors. A lot of my clients that are sole proprietors do mix a lot, but it is so much easier if you can keep your personal and business separate. Definitely. Because then if the IRS comes in and never asks to look at anything, you have black and white, clean, irrefutable, say, ta-da, here you go. Easy peasy, done. And it's completely separate.
There you go.
So yeah, no scuttlebutts, no sneakerheads.
That's right. Yeah. So to each their own, I guess. But so first off, explain to listeners, the name of your company, where they can find it if they're really excited about what you're saying. They're like, I've got to work with Nanci Watkins. She will definitely help me where I need to go so I can get my business in order. And then, of course, to finish out every episode, I always ask the guests, what is next for you? We kind of talked about it earlier, but let's put it in a nice package of, what's next for JNS Financial and Nanci Watkins.
Yeah. So, JNS Financial Services of the Emerald Coast is our name. We are based out of Florida, but we do offer services nationwide and now international, which is awesome.
Yeah.
You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/JNS, the letters, for Financial, EC for Emerald Coast. And all of my contact information's on there. Our phone number, my email. You can feel free to message us on there as well. I have a lot of clients that book appointments through Facebook, or you can find our website, which is just jnsfinancialec.com. And you can schedule a free strategy call with me on there as well. That way we can see what's going on and make sure that you are headed to your goals correctly and getting there a lot faster than you think you should be. So with JNS, our next goal where we're going is expanding into more states. We're going to be taking on 3 more clients for the next quarter. And we don't take on too many at a time. That way we make sure that our onboarding process is complete and our clients get our full attention. So you want to make sure that you get on our schedule and schedule those strategy calls, because once we get a client that says, hey, yes, we do want to work with you now, then I'm already having to schedule out for the next set. So that would be what is next for us, is making sure that we're growing and able to provide more services. We'll be doing some advisory services coming soon, as well as our CFO course that we'll be working on putting out probably within the next couple months.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're already busy, but then you're going to be more busy, but in a good way, right?
Hey, I love it. Being able to help people is where my heart is. And I always make sure that we can work with our clients. I don't want someone to feel that, oh my goodness, they're way out of my reach. There's a way that we can get you to where you need to be. So don't hesitate to call me. Don't hesitate to message us. Let's get you to where you're making your dreams come true too.
Definitely.
Now rather than later.
Yes. More now, less later.
Yes.
Yes. Well, Nanci Watkins, thank you so much for being on the Career Challenges podcast with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Me too. Thank you for listening to the Career Challenges podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and like the Career Challenges podcast on your favorite podcasting app. Visit careerchallengespodcast.com for more information. Schedule your free consultation with Kyle Weckerly by visiting weckerlywriter.com today. That's WECKERLYWRITER.com. Thank you.